Hey, Yo Foxboro, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in once again with me, Sarah Marshall, and my apparent co-host at this point, Murph, is here with us today as well, rocking the hat along with me. You know, bad hair day,
Yep.
good hat day.
Good hat day.
Yes. So, I got asked on Twitter, since we just were like, let's just start it off with that, from Chris about what Hey Yo Foxboro means or like what the meaning behind it is. And I wasn't going to talk about it because I just thought it made it a little bit more fun and like mysterious for those who didn't get it. But for those who don't, because I already told Murph the story, I think I had mentioned before that I was a wrestling fan and I've been watching wrestling since I was like 10 or so. And so I was trying to come up with a name for the show. I couldn't think of anything that I liked. And then I was just talking to a friend of mine who's also a wrestling fan, and he knew how much I loved Scott Hall or Razor Ramon in the 90s and the NWO. And so he was like one of my favorite wrestlers when I was younger, and he passed away in March, and I was like heartbroken about it. So I was like, what if I combine my two worlds? Like wrestling and football are like what has kept me alive. Like those are like those biggest things in my life. So when Scott would get into the ring, the first thing he would say on the mic was, "Hey yo." And so I thought, hey, what if I combine that with football, and it rhymed with Foxboro.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's my story. Not anything like super amazing, but
Sarah likes the bad guys.
apparently, I know. Imagine, this is why I
Sarah
was saying it
likes
was
the
funny.
bad boys.
Yeah, the bad guy. So 10-year-old me is still, 32-year-old me. So
My God.
there's the backstory of that
Want
for
to feel
all who.
want to feel old? Hey
What?
Murph, how you doing? Want to feel old?
Oh, I know. But then it's funny, right? Because Twitter is full of so many young people, and I'm like, I kind of forget that as
Mm-hmm.
far as I go, like, I'm not one of the younger people on Twitter anymore. Like,
No.
because when Twitter started becoming a big thing, I was 18. So, I was one of the younger people on there. And now I'm like one of the people that they tell to get off because I'm too old,
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh,
it's a weird reality we're
I
living
know.
in. Okay.
Wait until they start telling you to go back to MySpace.
Oh my gosh, I know. But MySpace was the best. I loved
MySpace.
MySpace.
Oh
It
my
taught me
God.
it taught me how to code, and I didn't even know at the time.
Oh, cool.
I know. So anyway, getting back to the Patriots, because I could go off on all sorts of tangents all day long, but
Well, we could do that. It'd be more entertaining than talking about the Patriots today.
I
That's for
know.
sure.
I know. So obviously we're all dealing with the I don't even know, the brutal loss, the tough loss, the disappointing loss. It's just there's any word that you can choose that's not good. It could describe the game last night. So I wanted to start off with injury updates
Mm-hmm.
because that was one thing that Buddy and Galen and I all talked about last night, that we wanted to see starters play, but the main thing you want to come out of the game with is no injuries. And unfortunately, the Patriots did not escape this game with
No.
that. Ty Montgomery went down in the game with, at the time, was known as just a leg injury. He was helped off the field and then carted to the locker room. It would then be announced that it was an ankle injury. And Belichick said this morning that he did travel back with the team back to New England and will be doing more tests today. There was no further update, though, on like what exactly his injury is or the timetable. And I have to say, I didn't see a whole lot of people reacting to it, but Ty Montgomery has been one of my favorites coming into this season. So I feel like this is a huge blow for
Yeah.
them.
Ty's really stepped up as the de facto third down back. Even though a week ago, Bill was talking more about moving away from that because
Mm-hmm.
it was as I wrote the other day, it was getting to be a bit too predictable. Okay, here comes James White or Brandon Bolden, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, we know it's going to be a pass out of the backfield to try to pick. Here comes the wheel route, and
Yeah.
which I love. I love me a good wheel route. But they were talking about moving away from that, but Montgomery was filling that role really well and kept things um, diverse because he can do so many things. He can split out, into the slot or even out wide from any set, or move back into the backfield from an empty set. And this is going to hurt because he's had a good spring. He was somebody that I was looking forward to Mac being able to utilize as that check down guy. And as we saw last night, that didn't work out too well. There was no check down.
Yeah, and so I know nothing. Oh my gosh, we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think he was a player that I was just really excited about in general. Like when they signed him, I've been a fan of his. It's kind of a weird thing, but when he was on the Packers, I don't know if people remember, but I felt so bad. This is another just like check to my list about why I just can't stand Rodgers, because Montgomery was, I think it was a kick return or a punt return, I can't remember. It was a return, and he came out of the end zone, and I think he fumbled, and so one, I guess they didn't want him to take it out of the end zone, and they just wanted him to kneel. Second, then he fumbles. Rodgers was livid on the sideline, and basically is the reason why Montgomery got fired the next day. Yep. So ever since then, I was like always rooting for him, because I was like, okay, mistakes happen. Rodgers is not, like a perfect guy either. But so when he came to the Patriots, I was like, okay, this is another guy that they wanted to bring in as like a Bolden type dude. And given what they've been dealing with offensively, I felt like he was going to be that perfect middle ground guy where they could use him in so many ways. So hopefully it's not bad. Hopefully we get an update soon. Jacoby Myers was also apparently injured. I don't know if people saw this too. He was in the medical tent during the game at some point, and then he was on the stationary bike on the sideline, and then he wouldn't come back in the game. There's been nothing said about that either. So the extent of that injury, I mean, I would assume it's not that bad because we haven't gotten an update. Definitely something to monitor in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
And then Taekwon Thornton update. So he had surgery on his clavicle this past Monday, apparently, and he's still scheduled to miss 6 to 8 weeks, depending on healing. But a lot of people are not feeling too optimistic about him coming back at all. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be a season-ending thing? Because it was his clavicle. So, I mean, it's not like it's not like an easy injury to recover from.
Right. This isn't something that you pop back up 6-8 weeks later and say, okay, we're set to go. We're good. We're healed. A clavicle is really tricky, especially when you wear yours outside of your skin the way that the Slim Reaper does. I am optimistic that he will get back this year. I'm not optimistic that another injury or a re-injury might happen. If it was me and things are clicking, there's no way that I'm putting him back on the active roster. I would let him sit the entire season, come back and work out with the guys. This was just, the biggest fear for everybody when it came to this kid was how his body was going to react to being hit by grown-ass men, because he has never been hit by grown-ass men. He played in a smaller division with smaller ball players, and he did excel, and it did look fantastic. But no, this could end up being another talking point for the heads in this town that keep saying that Bill cannot draft wide receivers for whatever reason. They either don't work out or they get injured, and they never just reach the plateau that Bill thought that they would. They always get stuck somewhere in the middle, and it just doesn't work out. And this could haunt Bill for a while. There were a lot of really good receivers that were taken after Thornton, and guys that I really wanted, guys that represented the great state of Georgia. And Bill went in this direction, and I like the kid. I like his skill set. I like his work ethic. It's just he's a twig. He's a freaking twig. He's what every 14-year-old girl wants to be: tall and willowy.
Not inaccurate. You mentioned a good point too, just about the injury, and it being a worry. I think we talked a little bit about that last time when you were on
Probably.
with me. And I remember that one season where I think it was Tony Romo broke his collarbone, recovered, came back, then broke his other collarbone. And like, obviously he's much bigger and doesn't deal with the same type of players on the defense the way that a receiver does. So that would be my concern, especially when you say talking about his frame.
Right. But you understand, this was the first time he'd been hit.
Yeah.
You know, he caught a few passes in training camp and in workouts and whatnot. But this was the first time that this kid got piled on. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't work out. And he ended up, in surgery, having surgery. So, I'm a little worried. And like you said, with Romo a few years ago, this is not something that just heals up and then you don't worry about it again, because once you break your clavicle, it's not easy to come back and not have it become a problem again, whether it's on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm. And I guess in a way it's the Patriots kind of lucked out this season because of him being injured, and they have so many receivers to choose from. Like if this were last year, it would probably be a bigger deal. And it is a big deal given the fact they just drafted him, but the fact that they're still having a competition only 2 weeks away from the season beginning, it's like, okay, well, this opens the door for someone, like we talked about, little Jordan Humphrey. So at least they're not grasping at straws trying to figure out who to replace him, but we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that and see what happens, especially with Tuesday being roster cut down day just around the corner. Don't be surprised if he makes the roster, hits IR, and then has to miss at least 4 games. I would assume it's going to be much more than that, but that's why I was saying when we're going to go live on Tuesday, actually, though, ETG Sports will be going live. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern, so we'll be here. A bunch of us will be coming in and out. I don't know all the details, but we'll be here talking about the roster cut down. And remember that there are a couple players for the Patriots that will probably make the team and then go to IR. So there's going to be players that look like they don't make the team, but you gotta wait because things will drastically change. Okay, so getting into the game, because why not? The Patriots offense was a hot mess, if we want to be honest, and that's being like nice, polite as I possibly can. So we wanted to see the starters in for a little bit. We got the Patriots offensive starters in for 4 drives. And it was punt, interception, punt, field goal. So not a whole lot of good that came from that. Mac ended 9 of 13 for 71 yards and a touchdown. He was sacked twice for negative 19 yards.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
An interception, not a touchdown.
Yeah. And he had a 1 carry for 13 yards.
Yep.
So it just, I mean, I said before the game that my biggest, other than injuries, my biggest concern and what I was going to be watching for in the game was the offensive line. And I think that was a good choice because last night was certainly not a good showing by them whatsoever.
No, whatsoever is an understatement. It's been a long time since I saw Mac Jones look this nervous while dropping back for a pass. He ran himself into 2 sacks because he simply does not trust the protections in front of him. It's very concerning, very damning. Even when he did have time to throw the ball, he was tapping, and his feet were dancing, and I don't like that. He did make it.
It always reminds me of the Peyton Manning. Like every time you would watch Peyton Manning, he was always jumping around.
Yep. And it just seemed like he was very uncomfortable back there. And I mean, I wrote last week at E2G Sports, not last week, I wrote a piece yesterday about how I was changing ships, and in the fact that, this is the offense that Bill wants to run. And he's going to do it, be damned. It was one of the reasons that he kept the coaching staff that he has, and that, these guys have got to get on the same page. But then again, once again, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this football game, and what he wants to do is not working, and what he did for 20 years really seemed to be working. And one of those the big reasons was the uncomfortable look that was Mac Jones every time he dropped back. He did throw a couple of nice passes.
Yeah.
But other than that, he did hit for a touchdown that got called back because of the push off. That was a really weak ass push off for a flag. But still, it doesn't look great. It looks like everybody's out there thinking. Okay. And you can't do that. Don't think. It only hurts the ball club. It is not second nature to these guys. And it doesn't look like it's going to become second nature in the next 16 days.
Yeah. And I agree. I basically thought everything that you were saying. It just didn't look encouraging. It just, when you can tell that the quarterback is not comfortable from watching at home, like you're not even in the game, like that's not a good sign. And that's not something that we've ever discussed. At least I haven't. In regards to Mac, he came in last year looking like a veteran. Yeah. I mean, he beat out Cam Newton, who everyone thought was going to be the starter last year. So that'll show you how he conducted himself. And other than the lack of protection on Mac, the line obviously continued to not help the run game at all. They had 2 holding penalties. They weren't helping the run game at all, no matter who was trying to be the guy at the time. And that's been a constant issue too, where they're just not opening up any gaps for the runners in practice or in games. And so it's like, what? And the thing that's crazy is that the offensive has not been something that we've had to worry about. I couldn't even tell you the last time. Like, it just wasn't ever really. It's been a few years since it's been a concern, and so. And it's hard to figure out what exactly the problem is. If it really is it the talent? Is it the new playbook that they're trying to bring in? Like, what exactly is it? Because it's like nothing is working.
Yeah, it all we've said this a dozen times on a dozen different shows, including this one, that it all starts with the offensive line.
Yep.
And with this offense, even more so. If you get one person on the backside who misses a block or is in the wrong spot and is not opening up that lane, then, there's no running game to be had. And everything is predicated off the run game in this. That stretch run to the outside just is not working. I think one person got one off in this. God, let me look at it.
Was it Kevin Harris, his big run?
Yeah, it was Kevin Harris's big run for 33 yards. God, man, he's so good. He's so good. I really like this kid. And it was his big run. And other than that, it just did not click. These guys were not opening the gaps up that they needed to up front. And when they did, there was somebody there to fill it. And it all comes down to how this line reacts to everything. And you can see it on the face of the linemen when they're talking about the game after it's all said and done.
And I feel, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I hate when that happens. Oh, I was gonna say oh goodness, now I can't remember. I'm gonna look at the comments really quick because I saw I missed a bunch. Okay, Ray says, I like that Bill is taking most of the blame. Yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit later, about his comments after the game, because I know Murph hasn't heard them yet. But yeah, we're gonna talk about how he expressed in not few words of his disappointment on the game. So Joel says the offensive line had a bad night. Everything stumbled from there. Yes, it did. And we've talked about that, like you said, a million times, where Mac there was a lot of people enjoying Mac's struggles last night outside of New England. And, even some people inside New England were disappointed, and I understand, but at the same time, it's like, this blame is not on Mac. There's no way that Mac is going to regress.
Well, I'm gonna put the interception on Mac.
Yes,
You
that was
know,
bad.
see,
That was horrible.
that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
even when Mac is back there and he has time, he went through all three of his progressions on that, and then came back to two. Okay,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You can't. He had five people surrounding him, and he was wide open when Mac first went to him, and then he went three, and then he went back to two, and you see what happens. You get a terrible interception. So yeah,
Yeah.
that one I'm putting squarely on Jones.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So Jeff says, you think the issues with the offensive line is with Wynn not wanting to play left tackle and not getting paid as left tackle? From what I saw, I don't think he played super badly last night. Obviously, he's not playing great. Otherwise, he wouldn't be talked so much about being traded. But I can't say that the entire issue of the offensive line is solely on the shoulders of one player. I can't do that.
No, it's a group thing. Everybody is whiffing on something on each play. It's not, we can point a finger right at pouty ass Isaiah Wynn, who yes, lost soul is pouting over there being a right tackle because he wants to be a left tackle and get paid like a left tackle, but he's not a left tackle. He's not. This is what he needs to do, and he needs to. At the end of the year, he's going to be walking, and if he wants to get paid anything, then he needs to step up his game and stop sitting over there on the right side like pouty Smurf.
Well, and the thing is like, I don't think sometimes when players do this, it's very counterproductive. Like, I don't think they realize that. Like, if you want to be playing in a different position, that's fine and dandy, and maybe you can, but you want to be able to be performing the best of your abilities and what you're given now, because that's what people are looking at. So if you're not looking like you can't play what the Patriots are putting you at, then why would anyone want to bring you in to play somewhere else? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then let's see. Oh, Boston Sports Talk says, damn, why didn't I know Sarah was doing Patriots talk? I guess I need to check Twitter more often. My bad, Sarah. Yeah, where you been? Where you been? This is episode 5? I want to say. I don't know. So. Yeah, I'm like, which one? Murph's been on here.
I've been on 3.
Yeah, so I think it's 5 because yes. So anyway, scheduling will come out for when we'll be on throughout the season. So make sure to check Twitter for that. So we already talked about the offensive line. I totally just, missed that mark there. I wanted to talk about, because of the offensive line struggles, do you think there's anything that they can do? Are they going to make a trade? Are they? It's hard because we know there's only less than 2 weeks until the season begins, at least until the Thursday night game. But do you think they're going to trade Wynn? Do you think they can get anything back for him? Are they going to bring somebody else in? Like, is there a magic potion that they can have that's going to somehow make this look better than, before their game against Miami?
We're going to have to wait for cut downs and see if somebody has to go on from another roster to clear cap space, or for some other reason that can come in here and solidify this offensive line. And now, saying that, I don't believe that anybody's going to be able to come in here and be the magic pill. Yeah. I really don't. All right, you're not gonna find a starting caliber offensive lineman that knows this system, backwards and forwards the way that they really need somebody. The guys on this offensive line just don't seem to be cut out mentally for this type of an offense, and it's really frustrating. I don't know what's going to happen on cut down day, folks, but if something does happen, it's going to come that way. I don't think it's going to be a trade.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so close to the season. I mean, it's like people aren't really going to be cutting starters. So, I think it's going to come down to maybe who clears waivers or who's available, and if they find someone that they think can grasp it in that short period of time. I mean, at that point, it's like less than 2 weeks. So
everybody's already hurting for offensive linemen.
Yeah, I know. Hence why Isaiah Wynn's even been, talked about going on the trade block, is because there's people who need them. How much do you think this falls under? Like, do you think this offensive line is just its own thing and that's why it's struggling? Or is there any blame for Patricia and Judge?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it the playbook, like them trying to
you know,
bring in this new
it,
scheme?
it is the playbook. That is this first and foremost is these guys running this playbook and running this system. After that, you have to go to the coaches. These guys are I don't want to say idiots or morons, but I mean, when you're an all-pro offensive left tackle and you have Matt Patricia telling you what to do, it's like, dude, I know more than you do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
honestly, I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and that's in the back of some of their heads.
Oh, sure.
And when he says something that they don't completely understand or grasp, they're going to question it.
Hmm.
For 20 years, Dante Scarnecchia was here, and nobody questioned a damn thing he ever said because he's the best that's ever done it.
Yeah.
And so no, it hurts. It does. I've talked with people that say that this isn't the case, but I believe it is the case.
And I know that people have said, I think someone even said it in here. Yeah, Chris said to bring Scar
Good
back.
luck.
I don't think he would come out of retirement.
He's not.
Yeah,
He did it
he
once.
shouldn't.
He's not doing it again.
Yeah, he
He's
shouldn't
not.
have to. If they had him come in maybe for a practice just to see if there's anything he can, I mean, look at and see that, I don't know, give some sort of insight to, I'm not against it.
Right.
But as far as the playbook goes too, it was a couple weeks ago when Scar spoke to the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe. I can't remember. It's, but he was saying that he would anticipate Belichick to scrap the new playbook if it looked like it wasn't working. Like he said
Right.
that, from his time spent with the Patriots, that was always the case. If something wasn't working and they kept trying to get it and it didn't, then he thinks he would throw it out.
Right.
I'm wondering if that is still a possibility at this point, given the fact that it doesn't look like he had any intention, as recently as yesterday, to end that. But now that they bombed against not even starters from the Raiders,
Right.
that's another thing. There were no starters that played. The fact they struggled all night long, it's kind of like there needs to be something that can change. And if you are all in on Patricia and Judge being coaches on the offense, then the easiest thing for you to change is to revert back because, there were things that needed to be adjusted with the playbook, especially with McDaniels leaving, but it wasn't broken. So why did you need to fix it? Why did you have to completely change it?
I wrote about this yesterday, the day before. There was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people in the NFL that thought that, and rightfully so, that this offense became very predictable over the last 3 or 4 years. This is an offense that the Patriots have been basically running for 15 years, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew what was going to happen. They knew what was coming. That was one of the reasons that they were having such a difficult time. But during those years, you had Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And guess what? We don't have Tom Brady anymore. And no matter how much you wish it, no matter how much you pray for it, no matter how much you really want it deep down inside, Mac Jones is never going to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady overcame a lot of things with this offense just simply by walking to the line. Now, I think Mac could do a lot of that. I think Mac is at his best when you're spread out wide. He's able to see the field and make adjustments at the line of scrimmage. But Bill wanted something else. Bill wanted to set something up that was going to be more successful and more diverse. And with whatever set of players that you had in there, it's just to this point, it hasn't clicked. And in practice or in these games, they've had two. I want to say in 3 games, the starters have had 2 drives that I would consider successful, and one of them ended up in having to take a field goal last night.
Mm-hmm. What I thought was interesting too is people are already talking about Mac Jones regression, but it appears most people from what they've seen obviously is blaming of the coaching. So Henry McKenna from Fox Sports last night tweeted, "It's official. The Patriots have stunted Mac Jones's development in the process of installing the new offense. There's a chance it ends net positive, but it's not starting this way."
No,
Do you think is that what it looks like to you too?
Yeah, I don't want to totally agree with him. It might be on pause until everybody gets on this page. and you can't predict how well something's going to work in week 3 of in the third preseason game when a new system's being installed, as opposed to at the end of this season. So I really don't. I don't know. I think McKenna is just trying to get clicks, trying to get his analytics numbers up there, and what better way to do it than say the Patriots suck?
I know, and now he
We
used to
can
cover
say
the
they suck.
Patriots.
Henry McKenna can't.
Yeah,
Not anymore. Not anymore.
he used to cover the Patriots. He now covers the AFC East, I think, or maybe it's I think it's AFC East. So Chris says go back to what worked, especially as you have new position coaches in Judge and Patricia, and slowly phase in any new changes. That's what I was hoping. I think I wanted to see Mac more involved with the playbook, and it's been said that he has been more involved in voicing what he likes, what he doesn't like, blah blah blah. But it's just not translating. So we'll have to see. There's still 2 more weeks of practice. They have a very tough week 1 game against Miami in Miami. I wouldn't expect it to go very well based off of what we've seen and their history in Miami, but the regular season still hasn't happened.
Chris, go over and read my piece at e2gsports.com that I wrote yesterday, and you'll see exactly what I think is happening and what's going to continue to happen throughout the season.
Yes. D22 Williams, I want to read what he said too. He said, what are the odds that Belichick would reveal the new offense right before an important game with a conference opponent? I have it at 100-1. It's and this kind of goes in along with my conspiracy theory that I came up with last week that Belichick was purposely not showing what he wanted to do. And now that they have 2 weeks, they'll really do it. I don't know that that's the case, but if they come out swinging in week 1, I need to clip that from our show and post it everywhere.
If you guys really want to know if that's the case or not, go back and listen to watch what David Andrews had to say last night after the game. I have never seen this man more frustrated in my life. It's almost like I took less money to come back here for this.
Yeah. And I think that is maybe I would like for that to kind of impact Belichick's thinking too. Yep. I mean, obviously, he's going to do what he wants to do. He's known for doing that. But I think that when you have veteran guys like David Andrews expressing that when they normally don't, then you probably need to look at things from their perspective.
And he's not saying it. It's his body language that you have to look at. You really need to look at his body language and how he's the press is getting on his last nerves with these questions. He's really tired of answering them, and he wants these guys to just go out there and do their job, and that really hasn't been happening. And I think he's frustrated. I think Mac is frustrated because it did come so easy for Mac last year, and even though and the offensive line was clicking a lot better than it was right now. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to sit here and talk about it every single time we come on the air. And I that's nothing against Sara. It's what I talk about when I'm on the air with anybody. It's what I talked about when I was on the air out in Hawaii last week, for Christ's sakes. So that's it. It's just frustrating. We want to see these guys, especially the frontline starters, go out there and put together 3 great drives in a row. And we haven't been able to see that. We see, as Sara pointed out earlier, 3 and out, field goal, 3 and out, and field goal. And, right now the only person draftable in your fantasy leagues is Nick Folk.
I
Take
know.
him in the first round.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I it's funny to see at least one Patriot that people scramble to try and get, and it's the kicker.
The kicker.
Yeah. So I want to touch briefly just on some of the good things that we saw from the offense, which was we talked a little bit about Kevin Harris. He had 4 carries for 54 yards, one of which was a long of 33. It was the best run that we've seen out of any of the running backs in the preseason. He broke a tackle to go for the 33 yards. He did fumble later in the game, but I mean, at that point it didn't really matter. They were not on their way to winning. But what do you like most about Kevin Harris, and do you like him better than Pierre Strong?
That's kind of a loaded question.
Okay.
I I love Kevin Harris. I love the pick when they made it. He showed last night that he does belong in this running backs room, and he probably won't end up on the practice squad. I'm penciling him in right now. I like him, but Pierre Strong is able to do so much more. He's there in the kicking game. He's there in a punt game. So no, I don't want to say I like either of them. It's like, hey, go ahead, pick your favorite kid.
Yeah. Well, because I've seen a lot of what I've seen when people were doing their roster projections, they always have Harris cut and have Strong on the team.
Right.
So, we saw that from him last night. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, is he kind of making a more of an impression? Like, where is this going to go? But, now with Ty Montgomery's injury, that might open the door a little bit for him in the next 2 weeks. The running backs did try to get involved in the passing game. Clearly that did not work. They basically weren't able to do anything. Nothing exciting offensively from them either. Josh Hammond had the most receiving yards with 33. So that'll tell you how the night went when Josh Hammond, no disrespect to him, but I mean, when he is the leading guy, how the night went.
Right. I actually, my wife actually said during the game, "Who's Josh Hammond?"
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, because like you haven't heard about him, but that is like the cherry on top for how this night went for sure.
Yeah, Trey Nixon had a couple of caught 2 of 4 passes. Hunter Henry, here's a nice little tidbit. He caught both of his passes.
Yep.
With the long for 16 yards. JJ Taylor, we talked about earlier, and his versatility. He averaged 11 yards a catch. Kendrick Bourne, we had a Kendrick Bourne sighting.
He's alive,
which was right, and he caught 2 of his 3 passes. When you look down at the roster at the box score from last night, everybody was 1 of 1, 2 of 2, 2 of 3. You didn't see a lot of drops. Devontae Parker caught 2 of 4. The weapons are there, and when Mac has enough time to allow these guys to get into their breaks, and he's able to hit them coming out of their breaks. This is going to be an offense that's able to do these things. It's just all predicated on play action right now, and it hasn't been for deep chunks. I think the longest pass last night in the air was 15 yards, and that was to Trey Nixon, who we're not going to see.
Yeah. Well, and we said a lot of the issues that we're seeing is not because of lack of talent. It's because of the inconsistency, especially at the line. So if anyone ever wanted to question the importance of the offensive line, watch this Patriots game and there's your answer. D22 Williams said, watch Mac in the 2-minute offense, almost the same as the Bama LSU spread, where I know that was a lot of what went well in practice this week was the 2-minute offense.
And what I said in a little bit earlier is Mac's at his best when he's spread out and able to pick this thing apart. You're almost going to see every week I write keys to the game, and this team to start out the year is going to have to go no huddle a lot. Okay, I can see a lot of that happening because this is when the offense clicks, when they're in that 2-minute drill. D22. Sorry.
Yeah, so we'll have to see again. Another part of the onion, we'll need to watch when we you know what I'm trying to say. It sounded good in my head, and then I said it out loud. It just didn't sound good. Okay, let's move on to the defense. Which, I mean, what is there to say about the defense? It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. There wasn't a whole lot of exciting things that happened. They had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 4 passes defended, 4 quarterback hits. But what I was excited about, we got to finally see Jabril Peppers, which I know he's kind of on the roster bubble, I guess, because he's been dealing with the injury and we haven't seen him incorporated in the game as much. I was excited that he was able to even take any part of the game last night.
You got a little overexcited there and ended up with a 15-yard penalty for a personal foul. And I'm gonna shake that off to him just being on the field for the first time and being able to hit somebody with reckless abandon. I love the Jabril Peppers signing. I don't think even now that there's any way you can leave him off this roster. And but somebody else that I don't know if you were about to bring up or not. It was finally fantastic to see Jack get out there and attack.
Yes, I was going to say it was about the Joneses, a lot about the Joneses. So Marcus Jones was I was happy to see both Marcus and Jack get time because we talked about that last week as well, that we didn't get to see a lot of Marcus. He did have 7 tackles and a pass defended. Jack Jones, though, I feel like this may have solidified his spot on the team.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yep, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I think especially with Butler and Jawan Williams out. I mean, he did everything. He had a forced fumble. He had pass breakups. He was aggressive all night.
Oh my God. And it's true. He's gonna get burned a couple of times this year, folks, for that over aggressive-ness. You know, he needs to be able to rein that in. But I said it when guys hit the IR that really solidified his spot here. I love this kid. I've watched every moment of his tape from USC to him jumping over the counter at Panda Express. And he's just fantastic. You got to get that orange chicken, man. Got to get that orange chicken. And it was it was fantastic to see him out there playing football last night. And I want more. I want more.
I think was something Buddy even had texted me last night during the game about the defense especially, but I think what's kind of exciting too is seeing all of these young guys that the Patriots have, and they got the opportunity to play last night to try and showcase what they can and what they can bring to the team. But it's that young, like, aggressiveness, just like eagerness. What I think is really exciting, because the Patriots defense has been the oldest part of their team for quite some time now. So to see these young guys out there and doing well, I think it's pretty exciting.
And he played well in coverage last night too. It wasn't just the hits that we saw. He had pass breaks up. He was glued to every receiver that he had to be glued to. Once again, second and third string guys, but from a rookie who was a second string guy, a third string guy, it was great. It was a fantastic first step, and I can't wait to see the second, third, and fourth.
Well, and considering the rest of the team wasn't able to really do anything, I feel like it's impressive that he was the most productive. Anthony Jennings, are you on the Anthony Jennings train too, like I am?
Yeah.
Okay, because he did really well last night as well. I am so excited about him. Another guy that I feel like is kind of flying under the radar, but he's been productive in every preseason game. We've seen him, or we've heard, because we haven't seen him with our eyes, but we've heard that he's done well at camp as well, and he was all over the place last night. Another guy that I'm excited about, and that's why I was like, I have to check with Murph to make sure, because I've been talking to so many people. I'm like, who else are the ones that are excited with me? I know you and Jack Jones, though, so that I can't say. Also, LeBrian Ray.
There you go.
He was a monster last night. He's a guy that's looked good in good in practice all summer long, has good hands. He's versatile. He was a part of a complete domination last night when how do you say his last name? Daniel Equale?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say his last name.
Equale. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. So he got the sack. But Ray was all over Alex Leatherwood and just like threw him to the ground. And I feel like that is a solidified roster spot for him as well.
Yeah, it really did. I'm just worried that there isn't enough size on the defensive line right now. This is a smaller defensive line than Bill has gone to battle with in the past. Barmore, Lawrence Guy, Godchow are locks. Dietrich Wise. I think LeBrian Ray has solidified his spot, and the kid DeMarcus Mitchell.
Oh, and Buddy would love that because he loves him some DeMarcus Mitchell.
Yeah.
Chris says, has the defensive scheme changed, or is it just the players who are making a difference on defense?
No, it's just the players that are making a difference on defense. We'll see more of this amoeba stuff as the season goes along. As these guys get on the page, you'll see less linebackers and more defensive backs in here.
Mhm.
Folks, completely, you really need to wipe out cornerback and safety designations right now with this guy. These guys are defensive backs, and Bill is going to put them in when he sees the need for it, and they'll be all over the field.
Yeah, and the players that he has are so versatile. I mean, I think I talked about it on here before, where people didn't even realize that Jalen Mills was actually a corner. Like, that was his designation, but it's like he does everything. So
he does everything.
And doesn't Belichick love that? I love when I write about versatility, and I'm just like, Belichick loves him a versatile guy. Like, as if you didn't know. So let's talk about at the end of the game, because I think we've exhausted what the game looked like. So I know that you didn't hear about Mac Jones' frustration throughout the game. So obviously he was seen on the sideline. He was pacing. He threw the tablet. He was seen talking to. Yeah, he
did that in Alabama when shit didn't work. He probably did it in Pop Warner when shit didn't work.
And who else used to do that?
Yeah, who else used to do that? I wonder. Guys that are ultra competitive, this is what they do. Okay, how many tablets did we see Tom Brady freaking toss? I mean, how many times did we see him, look back at an opposing crowd and say "F you, bitches," and things of that nature. This is just who Mac is. People need to stop making such a big deal out of it. Yes, Tom Brady didn't do it in his second year, but we weren't watching the sidelines for Tom Brady's reaction in his second year, so we're not really sure. We're not really sure. Get off the kid's back. He's not a pouty, whiny little brat over there. This is how he deals with the frustration, and then he goes back out there and he does it. He did it last year. He's going to do it this year. He's going to do it in year 10.
And it's one of those things where I would prefer to see that from my quarterback than the guy who just like sits down and just is like acting as if nothing's happening, because there's plenty of quarterbacks who do that, where they'll throw their third interception of the game and they sit on the bench and it like looks like they're just, waiting for their food to arrive. Like, there's nothing there.
That's it.
So he was asked, of course, by the media about his frustration. And he said, "I think I care about this game, and sometimes I get a little bit too passionate. After the interception and all that, I try to just clean the plate and start fresh. Sometimes it's getting the frustration out and moving on. We all wish we played better. Individually, I think we all can play better. Once that happens collectively, it'll look better. Not a good enough effort from us or me." And I wrote about this for Musket Fire last night. And when I was reading this, I was like, he was saying this kind of stuff last year. It was just a little bit of a different tone because they weren't dealing with the same struggles that they're dealing with this season. But it's just very much like what we heard from Brady. It's like he takes the responsibility for the things that didn't work out on his end, but he tries to remain optimistic, and he shows the passion that he has through his frustration. And I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't blame him. Like you said just a few minutes ago, we're frustrated having to talk about these issues. Imagine being a guy that has to deal with those issues on a daily basis.
Right. No, I completely agree with what you just said. I can't add anything brilliant to it, so I'll just sit here and shut up.
So he was also asked about Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, and he said, "We have a good group of coaches. We're going to come together and knock this thing out." So that, again, too, people had talked about, I can't remember who it was, but someone had mentioned it and said Mac has to be tired of getting questioned about Patricia and Judge at this point, because he's asked every single week. And I think, it is an obsession with the media and the fans, because they want someone to blame for what's going on. And they do bear some of that responsibility. But how many times are we going to ask the quarterback about it? And how many times are we going to get these vague answers? I get they have to do their job, but Mac's not going to come out and say, "I really hate working with those guys. I wish they were fired." Like, he's not going to say that for you.
No, he's not. That's not going to happen. Mac's a team player. These guys are team players. They're not going to come out here and park a bus on their coaches. They really aren't. There's the.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's I hope that things work out so he doesn't have to keep answering this. But I don't know how many more. Do they have any more practices that are open to the public or to the
No,
media?
I don't
Okay.
believe so.
Okay. In a way, I'm glad because I'm like, I don't want to hear any more of the negativity. It's going to be happening no matter what. But at least what we've seen is what they have to go off of. Who knows what they're going to be doing when we're not around
Right.
To watch. And I'm fine with that. So Belichick also didn't hide his disappointment. So he talked about it a lot and actually used the word disappointed throughout his little press conference. He said, we didn't play well in any phase of the game, didn't play with any kind of consistency. We had a couple touchdowns called back to turn the ball over. Didn't play well on defense. It didn't play well in the kicking game. I've got to do a better job. It starts with me. We'll get back to work this week and work on the things that we need to work on.
Right.
Which I felt like wasn't, for some reason I wanted to say it was kind of like uncharacteristic to hear that kind of stuff from Belichick, but it's not uncharacteristic, but I feel like we're getting, it's like more of a more honest response from him. I feel like
it's coming across better than we need to play better. We need to execute better. We need to coach better. And that's it. Next question, please.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that I've noticed with Belichick over the last couple seasons is I feel like he's a little bit more transparent and a little bit more honest as even in his own Belichickian way, if that makes any sense. He did say, which I think we even talked about, was that he felt like they looked much better against the Raiders in practice. So it was kind of confusing what happened last night. He said, like I said, it's disappointing because we did things a lot better in practice against the Raiders than we did tonight. And for the future, he just said, I've just got to get our team to be more consistent, higher competitive level than we were tonight. Right. So
that's it. The team came out flat. They looked flat from the opening gun until the final whistle, and they can't do that starting next week. Yeah. Okay. One thing that you have to realize, people, is these games don't count in the standings. Okay. I keep getting reminded of that by certain people. Calm down. These games don't count in the standings. And it's been really difficult this year. I don't put a lot of stock to these games. I put a lot more stock into joint practices, and things just have not looked well in joint practices either. So, but shit gets real now. For lack of a better term, it gets real now, and they're not going to be able to come out with the intensity that they have had last night in Miami and come out with a victory, even though I think Miami is a middle of the road team.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that most NFL fans believe that the Bills are going to take the AFC East, and based off what we've seen, that seems obvious. But I do think that people are. It's weird. I'm seeing underestimating and overestimating how good the Dolphins are going to be.
Right.
Because I don't think that they're in like a tremendously better position than the Patriots are. I think the two of them at this point are going to be competing for the second and third spot.
They have more stars.
Yes.
They have more household names right now than the Patriots have, and that's what people are latching on to.
Well, so and how long has that been the story for the Patriots? Like other than Tom Brady, it's like they never had the top receiver and the top this and the top that. So
you have to go back to Moss to when they really had that star power.
Yeah.
Gronk has always been star power, but how often was he on the field?
Yeah.
Things of that nature. And I mean, we've talked about it before that in a span of 3 years, the Patriots lost the best three players to ever play their positions. But Julian Edelman is not a household name. He's not somebody that people think of as a surefire Hall of Fame ball player. Gronk's a Hall of Fame ball player. Whether he gets in on the first ballot or the fifth, I'm not really sure. But he is a Hall of Fame ball player. And Tom Brady is a Hall of Fame ball player. Right now, there's nobody on this team that you would consider all-pro caliber. There are a couple of guys who could have good years and be Pro Bowlers, but to be an all-pro is something spectacular. And there's really nobody on this team on either side of the ball, less Christian Barmore, that I think is an all-pro talent.
Yeah. And, we only have a few weeks left to see Hopefully it's not heartbreaking week 1. I feel like I'm nervous. I'm always nervous for week 1, but man, am I more nervous this year. So since the cut day is coming on Tuesday, do you have any surprise players that the Patriots will cut, or any surprise players that will make the team? Like anything that'll shock me? I feel like I don't.
I really don't. If you guys are hoping that Trey Nixon was making this team, you're out of your mind. He's not in. I think Brandon Schooler and DeMarcus Mitchell have a really good shot of making the team. So there's your undrafted free agents here. And I'm going to throw out Kevin Harris is on this team Tuesday afternoon once cut downs are announced. I think he's earned a spot. I'm not sure whose spot he's going to take, but I think he's earned a spot.
Yeah.
How about that?
I feel like, well, that's a better answer than because I'm like, when I'm trying to think of surprises, I'm like, I don't think so. I feel like there's some random players that you kind of want to like fill out on the depth chart, but I feel like as far as who's making the team, that's like, Buddy went over his yesterday and he had 46 of 53 that he felt like were roster locks, and he hadn't gotten the last 7. But I was like, that the team is pretty solid, like solidified when you can name nearly every single player that's going to make the team.
I mean, I could say, is Cam McGrone a surprise cut? Is Cam McGrone a surprise cut? I mean, we've all been really high on him and can't wait for him to get on the field. He just hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
It just hasn't. He's been kind of void.
Yeah, we talked about him yesterday, and when I first was looking at roster projections like 2 weeks ago, I think I saw someone who cut him, and I was surprised. But I think it is one of those things where was incredibly hyped this year. And people had a lot of hopes for him, but we just haven't seen it. And so now at this point, if someone said McGrone didn't make the team, I don't think I would be surprised.
Right. Sean Wade's another guy that's right on the bubble right now. I think he got pushed a little further there over the week. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. Terrence Mitchell is probably not going to make this team. So there you go. I mean, it's just the guys that I list, you're not going to be surprised that they make the team. You're not going to be surprised. I mean, nobody's shocked that Brian Hawkins is not going to be on this team.
Right. Right. And Chris says, would Devin Asiasi be a surprise cut? In my eyes, absolutely not.
No. It really wouldn't with what he's shown here. But I don't know. He would be more of a surprise making the team than he would not making the team right now. But I could certainly see Bill, giving it one more shot. Giving it one more shot if this guy can magically do something. Matt Sokol has looked really, really good when he's been out there, but I don't see him making the team either.
Yeah, I think, obviously they've got their 1 and 2 and Henry and Smith. So I feel like they might bring in a third as just like an injury kind of guy if they need him.
But you could put him on the practice squad. He's not going to get picked up anywhere, and he'll make it. But as for the running backs, Stevenson, Harris, JJ Taylor, and Pierre Strong, and it's there's Kevin Harris's spot right there. Okay, if Bill takes 3 tight ends, Kevin Harris probably won't make this team. If he takes 2, then Harris is definitely on it.
Yeah, and I think we had talked about it. I talked about it with you, and I think we talked about it again yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with 2 tight ends.
Right.
And Humphrey makes the team, and then they use him if they need to in the tight end position because Belichick's already mentioned it. So
that's it.
That's an easier thing to do than to bring in, what has essentially been dead weight at this point with Asiasi or somebody else. So
right, and that's exactly what he's been. I think little Jordan Humphrey does make the team. I think he ended up taking 6 wide receivers, and it is what it is. And you're going to need the little Jordan Humphrey type player here. And he'll be in the wide receivers room. and not in the tight end room, but he's going to run a lot of tight end concepts, a lot of the Joker stuff that we saw here in the past. And I think it's going to be really good. I think he's a fantastic little ball player and he's,
I know. I was just going to say little ball player, little Jordan.
Yeah, I know. But he's my son's taller than him, so I could say it.
Yeah. Well, he's taller. So I would just be like, hey, what's up?
What are you, like 5 foot?
5'5", 5'6".
Oh, all right. So that's tall.
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah,
I mean, what's funny is like when I see JJ Taylor on the field and he's like walking around these guys, I'm like, oh, so that's what I would look like if I was on the field, because those guys look massive.
I have my son Butchie, that you guys have all heard me talk about ad nauseum for the past decade or two, is 6'2", pushing 6'3", and my daughter is 5'2". And she wants to know how the hell that happened.
I know. Isn't that funny though? Like I feel like that's way more common than it is uncommon. I think I've seen that way more. Yeah. It's like I met this guy from a dating app, and when I met him, he was 6'4", and that was shocking because obviously I didn't know how tall he was. But when I saw him, I was like, I think you are the first man I've ever seen in real life that was this tall, because you are massive, and I mean it's almost a foot over me, but I mean the fact that the NFL
I'm just shocked that you would use a dating app.
Hello, that is the world we are living in now. Wow, that's the only way I can meet even friends.
You know, I mean, with me, I met my wife, you know, just to I met my wife dating her best friend.
Ooh, spicy.
And and I mean, I grew up in the days where, you know, you dated the people that you hung out with. There was no dating apps or anything like that. This is how you broke up friendships for, you know, yourself and your and 30 years later, I guess, you know, it's okay. It worked out.
I know. And that's kind of like, it's how you meet people in general now, because I think, you know, I mean, that's a whole conversation. We could even have that conversation one day, but
we'll do that. We'll do that on the bye week.
Yeah. Let's do that. We'll be able to
talk
dating apps and being lonely. Anyway, so do you have any other thoughts before Tuesday?
Wow. Sarah comes up with the best questions. You know, that's a good question. No, I'm just really I'm waiting to hear what's happening in the emergency rooms and see how that unfolds. Other than that, you know, just scouring, you know, looking around the landscape to see who might be on the trade block with other teams. You know, who you know, are the Broncos looking for something, you know, that they could give up a guard for or something like that. Don't think that these offensive line problems are simply solved, folks, by bringing in another tackle. You know, we have guys that we can kick out to tackle. You know, if you find a better guard there who's, you know, passed through waivers and Bill can bring in here on the cheap. The last thing is it's not 2017 anymore, and people aren't going to be banging down the door to come here the way they had been in the past. It's not. I've got an opportunity to go play for Bill Belichick and with Tom Brady. So if you see these, money talks, and we'll see how much cap space the Patriots have to work with come Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday.
Yeah, because I think right now it's at like 5 million, a little over 5.
Bill likes to go into the season with $5 to $7 million worth of cap space to work with, you know, and it's he takes a lot of grief for it, but he's been able to do some things in season with that money that other teams just can't do. Yeah,
and if you need any answers to cap questions, make sure you guys follow Miguel on Twitter at Pat's Cap. He has all of the answers to virtually all of your questions that we could never possibly begin to understand.
You have Miguel on.
I don't even know.
I almost said we.
Well, it's funny because most of the time I don't know what he's saying. I'm like, I don't understand any of this. This is all gibberish to me. But I'm so glad that Miguel knows what he's saying and understands it, because I don't. Yeah, thank God for Miguel. This was Hey Yo Foxboro with Sara and Murph. No, I'm just kidding. Murph is going to become my permanent co-host.
Oh,
Because nobody else wants to join me. No, Murph's
oh,
my
that's
favorite.
not true.
No, I haven't
Everybody
reached
wants
out to
to join
anybody.
you.
I haven't reached out to anybody else at this point. There's just everyone's busy, you know, and Murph
I'm the
just
safe.
gets me.
I'm the safe bet. I'm the safe bet. I'm the cousin that gets asked to take you to prom.
Well, the biggest thing is that you're just nice to me and you laugh at some of my jokes.
I'm
and
nice
that's
to
like,
everybody. What are you talking about?
well,
I'm delightful.
No, I'm saying I don't come across a lot of people who are nice, is what I mean. So the
Oh,
fact that
okay.
you're nice and you laugh at my jokes,
They're funny.
it means a lot, you know? It's like my 4-year-old nephew thinks I'm the most hilarious person that he's ever met. And that just warms my
I miss
heart.
being
You know?
everybody's favorite uncle. It was always so cool to be everybody's favorite uncle before I
always
had
like
kids.
to ask him if I'm his favorite aunt because I'm his only aunt that he's ever met because
Yep.
my brother-in-law's
Go for it.
family lives somewhere else. I'm like, that's right, I'm your favorite aunt. I don't care
Yep.
if it's by default.
No, we'll take it.
It's true.
We'll
Yes.
take it. We'll take it.
So the roster cut down special, as I've had on the ticker all this entire hour, is on Tuesday, August 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern. More details will come out, I'm sure. Make sure you check out E2G Sports on Twitter, their Facebook. Even if you just follow me and Murph on Twitter, I'm sure we'll have
that
it.
Subscribe button, people. Click that subscribe button.
All those fun details will be out. We're all going to be popping in, I think. So we'll be counting down and see what's going on with the Patriots. But until then, make sure to follow us on Twitter. You can follow Murph at TMurph207, me at SmarshXO, and Smarsh, yeah.
Smarsh and Smurf. It's Smarsh and Smurf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's too bad that you have a T for your first name. Why couldn't you have been like Samuel or something?
Yep.
Sam.
Stewart.
Yeah.
Stewie.
I feel like I like Stewart better for you than Samuel. You don't look like a Samuel.
We'll
I feel like you've taken on just being Murph. You know?
I've been Murph my entire life. And now, you know, oh, God. All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, okay, so we'll see you guys.
Now I'm Papa Murph, and that's it.
We'll see you guys in a couple days.
Later.
Make sure you check our Twitters, and don't forget, go Pats.
Yeah.
Bye.
Go read. A lot of great